whether it helps make the materials that you use in your job, or whether you're interfacing with an AI when you're out in the world. And if you don't understand how AI works, you are going to become a very frustrated person in the future because it's only going to get worse and worse and worse for you. So that's a really long answer to come back to say everyone at Mabel has to use AI. Everyone has to use it every day. We pay for AI tools for them to use. We build AI tools for other people to use. So we are consumers and we are providers of AI in different ways. But I am a firm believer that everybody needs to adopt AI. Not everyone needs to use it at the same level of everybody else, but you have to have a core understanding of how it works for you and just have a core understanding of how it works in general. So when you go out there and you investigate all these different things about AI, you understand what's going on.
The next wave of business leaders won't just use AI, they'll master momentum with it, starting now. Welcome to the Mastering AI Momentum Show, where visionary founders and driven business leaders turn artificial intelligence, automation, and scalable systems into real growth, real scale, and real freedom. If you're ready to break bottlenecks, reclaim your title, and scale smarter, this is your playbook. Let's dive in. Here are your hosts, Allie Porter and Elise Smith.
Welcome to the Mastering AI Momentum Show, where today's top entrepreneurs share how they're scaling smarter, evolving faster, and navigating the future of business with or without AI. I'm Elise Smith, your business AI strategist, and I'm here with our incredible guest, Kevin McGrath. Now, Kevin brings over 25 years of experience in startup and enterprise technology, with a background spanning infrastructure, cloud optimization, and developer platforms. Prior to founding Mabel, Kevin was vice president and general manager of Spot by NetApp, which he ascended to after his role as CTO, leading engineering and product during a period of rapid growth and innovation in cloud automation. Earlier in his career, Kevin held technical leadership roles across startups and global tech organizations, consistently focused on building scalable systems and high-performing teams. Wow, you are quite the powerhouse, my guy.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. No, it's such an honor to have you on. So I want to know, like, in your own words, who do you serve and how do you serve them?
We serve product and engineering teams who are building generative AI applications today. So Mabel is a runtime platform for generative AI. You use us to build, run, and scale generative AI applications. And the reason our customers use us is we believe that you have to measure everything that you deploy. And we measure everything from how your data is being ingested and applied to AI to the retrieval process on how well those outputs are. So you can actually score yourself and make your outcomes better and better over time. So we're really concerned with how AI operates it.
Yes, absolutely. And just making sure it like stays within those boundaries, right? I mean, AI could just go crazy if we let it.
Yeah, and I think if you want to run, especially integrating AI into your business and integrating into like a revenue stream of your business, you want to narrow down components of what AI is doing. Maybe you have 100 different AI things doing very, very small things, and you're not trying to create one big agent to rule them all. That's a place that we focus on with our customers by putting those boxes around what you want AI to do and how you want it to operate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to be able to understand what you want AI to do. And it's so funny because it can do almost anything. But I like how you said you don't want one AI agent doing everything. So yeah, we can definitely get into that a little bit more. But how did you get started with your company?
I got started a little bit more than a year and a half ago. My co-founder came to me who had just left AWS a little bit beforehand. But with this idea, after building AI systems on his own, he realized that there was a gap in the market of really selling to the product and engineering teams. There's a lot of machine learning that was out at the time and a lot of other tools that really target data scientists. But we believe there were not a lot of tools targeting product and engineering teams, not from a, hey, how do I code better perspective? There were a ton of those tools out there, but how do I actually build, run, and deploy and scale AI effectively? And how do I report back to my stakeholders that it's doing well? And a lot of product and engineering teams, unfortunately, don't have a data scientist sitting next to them every day to help them with that feedback. So that was the start of Mabel. My co-founder and I, we worked together before at Spot by NetApp and Spot Inc., which was the startup that got acquired by NetApp. We also go back many years before that. So it was one of those things. It was the right person at the right time with the right idea, and decided to move back out of the enterprise world once again and back into the startup.
That is so cool. So, have you always been an entrepreneurial spirit, or like what helped you take that very first move into owning your own business?
I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Even when I was younger, back in high school, I started a business with two of my friends called BackNet. It was named BackNet because it was Brad Allenson. And instead of going out and, maybe getting a job at a retail store or something, we started building web pages for local area businesses. Now, this business was not VC backed. We unfortunately did not blow up and, have big exits and things like that. But we did build a real business that designed and hosted websites for local area businesses. And for where we grew up, we were running these out of my parents' basement. We had servers lined up in my dad's basement. I'd rerouted the air conditioning over them in the summertime so they wouldn't overheat. I had an ISDN line run to my dad's house. And in fact, I didn't even tell him about just one day someone's outside like digging up. I happen to have the same name as my dad. We're both Kevin McGrath. So I could actually call people and say Kevin McGrath. And when they woke up, like, who owned the house? Oh, it's Kevin McGrath. So they're so not technically lying. My parents were good sports about everything, thank goodness. And we ran that. I ran that through about my sophomore year of college, sold it to another local area business. Again, not life-changing dollars there, but focused on going to school and working at different enterprises and startups since then.
Wow, that is such a cool story. Like, I just picture Jobs like doing the computer thing right from his garage. You have to start somewhere. And you started in high school, you said?
Yeah, it was high school, and we're talking, what, 96, 97, 98, 99, those years. So the internet's just coming around. There are web pages that aren't even necessarily available all the time, right? Like, it's a weird time to talk about. It's the dawning age of the internet coming a big thing. And I've always been excited about technology. I've always liked tinkering with engineering and different things like that. So to have two friends that we were actually able to go on that journey together, kind of all the way back in high school, really set me on the course that I am.
I love it. You're taking me back to the days when the very first internet I ever had was web TV, and we thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And we built out our Yahoo sites. We had no idea what they were for, but we made a website for ourselves. Like,
So when we were in high school, we actually had our original idea. If people would remember this, our original idea was basically the idea for GeoCities,
mm,
which was hosting web pages almost for free and things like that. We got talked out of the idea actually by a few people. And then like a year later, after we had this idea together, GeoCities came out. We were like, oh, we should have done it. But yeah, those are the days. Yahoo ruled the world. Netscape Navigator is what you used to get around. It was a different time, but a lot of the principles still hold true from all the way back then to today. Some of the core principles of just engineering, how the internet works, obviously, and things like that. And we've built upon all of those, but the core principles kind of still remain, which is very cool.
yeah, exactly. And so funny that we're having this discussion because my husband and I were talking about this like 2 days ago. I was realizing that I was born and existed before Google. It's just the whole world has just changed in such dramatic ways, and especially in the business world, right? Like the way that we do things, even in the last few years, has changed so dramatically. So let's get into that a little bit more. So, what were you able to do? Like, what were your biggest wins and kind of your biggest aha moments to get you to the point where you are scaled up today? Because what you're building is incredible.
Yeah, I think how we started, and we're still fairly young, we're a year and a half old, but we found product market fit for what we're doing. And how we did that is you start out small. So Kieran and I get together as co-founders. We start using our network to communicate the idea. So we stayed in stealth mode for about 8.5 months, I will say. And during stealth mode, we kind of split responsibilities. Kieran, very technical, better engineer than I've ever been in my career. So he really focused on the engineering. You were able to get a couple people around him to kind of take the idea he had been working on for 6 months and really press forward with that. While I'm on the other side working, and calling people and putting the idea out there. One of the worst things I think you can do is build something in isolation. You think something is great due to your experience. You don't know if it's great for the world we're in it right now. So taking the idea of what Kieran was building and then getting that in front of people and saying, like, are you excited about this? What needs to change? What would you be looking for out of a system like this? And going to as many product and engineering people as EU and our networks of that VIV. Eventually, we're able to see that viewpoint of, hey, generative AI is great, gets us maybe 50, 70% of the way down the road. But the old adage, the last 20% takes 80% of the work. Like, we're getting a lot of good results out of this, but we still need a human next to it all the time. We don't know how to make it better. We don't know how our data is being applied. I mean, all of the pain points are coming out of how to use technology. And it really solidified our original thought of why to start Mabel on first place. But it really helps get our first. And then having those be customers before we came out of stealth was also reassuring to us. We come out of stealth mode and is outside of it. You start really minimal. There's no other way to do it. You gotta get it. You gotta help people. You gotta be willing to get people or games. People are willing to pay for it, right? Anybody will use anything for free. Because someone told me that, I can't remember the exact person who told me that in my past career, but if you give it away for free, you're always going to get users. But if someone willing to pay for it, and then when your idea matches the point where someone will pay for it, now you have a business that can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. And you're speaking my language here because when we first started our AI agency, we started out with 25 AI agents. Like, we built your whole corporate structure with 25 AI agents. And we thought we had the best thing since sliced bread, right? And then we go out into the public with it. And it's like, these couple of agents here, they're not really making any ROI for people. It's cool to have, and it's neat that we can do that, but there's no real ROI. And so we really got focused and got down to the 5 core agents that are really ROI focused and help you to grow your business. And instead of what we wanted to build, it became we built what they needed, which sounds so simple, right? But if you're not out there talking to people and putting it out there and selling it, then you won't know. So I love that that's like the first thing that you guys realized. How long did it take you to get that first sale, if you don't mind me asking?
It took about 7 months of going out there and really hitting the pavement. And then once you get that first one, it's easier to get the next one, right? So it took time though. It's not instant. It takes a lot of conversations. It takes a lot of building. It takes getting feedback and deciding what to work on and what not to work on. Like you said, like knowing what not to work on is probably the most important thing of getting started on a startup, right? Because you can get down these kind of wormholes and get stuck in. And you don't want to do that. You got to move fast. And especially in the AI space, speed kills.
Yeah. Yep. AI and technology, it just changes so quickly that there's so much you can do with it that it can become overwhelming. There's a quote, I believe it's by Elon Musk, of that a lot of times we're optimizing for something that shouldn't even exist. And so we need to really cut the fat, right? And really focus on the things that are going to matter to the clients. So I love that. Any other things that you feel like really helped you to scale big time once you got past that first client?
I think something more personal to me, Karen, this isn't our first rodeo. We've been in the business before. We are able to use our network to hire out more people. All the first hires into Mabel are we know people we worked with before and things like that. So that helps scale fast. It's a little bit different. First time founders, maybe you're in the same cohort, first job that you went to, maybe you came out of university together, things like that. But getting that core team that you can work with and works together well, I think that helped us accelerate things tremendously in the beginning because we know we were working with known entities. And that's just something time and experience helped us out with. There's no magic to that besides, I got gray hairs on my head and I think that they're useful for something, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of trial and error in that process, right? Yeah, it was just part of the game. And I think that if you're expecting like instant results and instant clients and the perfect team right off the bat, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So, what kind of advice would you give someone who's looking to go from like 1 million to more than 1 million?
Repetition, right? So when you get to 1 million ARR and going past 1 million ARR is your sales process repeatable? And you got to start thinking about that. So up to 1 million ARR, you'll pretty much do anything, right? And you don't want to do things that aren't core to what you're selling as a business, but your go-to-market function is very much, hey, is someone willing to work with me at this point in time? I'm young, my name's not established in the industry, yada, yada, yada. When you get to a million and you want to get to 10 and especially 10 to 20, you start needing that repeatability. Like, what is my process? How do I get people into my top of funnel? And then what is my conversion from top of funnel down to contract? And understanding what your percentages are. Don't worry, I would say that early on, don't worry about industry percentages. Worry about what your conversion rates are. And if those conversions are good for your stage or not, you can worry about industry specific conversion rates when you get a little, maybe the 10 to 15 going up to there. But you have to see that you can repeat that process. You have to see that you can fill the top of the funnel, and you got to see that you can get to people to POV or proof of value. And then at proof of value, how many contracts are you getting? And there can be different steps for your product in and along that way, but that's something you need to be very cognizant of. Otherwise, you're spraying and praying for too long. It works again for those first few deals, maybe even first 10 to 20 deals, things like that. But you got to have a system in place, and you have to have someone in your organization who doesn't. So if you're the CEO and you come from sales and marketing, or you know how to run those operations, great. If not, you want to bring someone in. We went out, Aaron works for me and works at Mabel, and we work hand in hand together every day. And he helps me with pipeline generation and getting things through the pipe. And we went out and got somebody who really helps us with that. And that's super important as you scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you always focus on like people, process, and technology. So, how do you know that you found the right fit for the people side of things? I mean, it sounds like you've already known a lot of the people in your company for a little while, but when you're hiring new hires, how do you know that they're a good fit for your company?
It's a great question. Hiring is one of the hardest things that you do, period. It's hard. You don't want to draw out hiring cycles that they're so long that you wear each other out during the interview process. And you also don't want to be so short that you don't vet the person for what they're doing. So there's kind of this magical combination that you're striving for when hiring people, and culture has to rule the day during that process. I would say no matter how great of a talent somebody is, if they're not culturally aligned with how you run your business and how the people you've already hired into your business operate, it's not going to work. Doesn't matter how good they are, how many words you want to throw around about 10x, 20x, 100x engineer. I don't know what X we're up to at now. Now, at AI, we might have 400x engineers walking around. I'm not exactly sure. You do need to vet people, especially early on. Usually your first hires are technical hires, right? And you got to vet them. Do they know the technology? Do they know the ropes? Do they know the industry? Things like that. That being said, if someone fits your culture better than someone who's slightly better, oh man, they were slightly better in all the engineering tasks they gave, or they had slightly better answers, but there's a culture mismatch, either don't hire either of them or hire the other person where the culture matches, and you can bring that person along, I would say. But culture of a small company, and even as you grow big, it really trumps all. Is everybody aligned in your organization? You know, as the old adage goes, is everybody rowing the boat in the same direction, right? And if they're not, it's just going to cause problems. So I would say over rotate on culture. The number of puddles and mud that you'll step in is a lot less than if you just go out and try and hire the next 400x engineer.
Mhm. It's so important. I love that you bring that up because, as we're moving into your AI story, right? Artificial intelligence, AI also really means like authenticity and impact and abundance and impact. And that comes from that culture because you're not just selling a product. As you've said before, you're really making a difference in people's lives, right? Like it's not, I can tell just even in the way that you're talking about your team and also your product itself, that it really is about that impact that you have. Right?
Absolutely. Everybody has to feel that they're contributing to the company. And then the leaders of the company have to communicate how that contribution is happening back into the organization as well. Right. And it has to be a two-way street. You can't just ask for buy-in and not provide a little bit back to the people in your organization. Right. You need to clearly communicate why what people are working on is important. Right. And why it all tracks back to the customer. Right. Everybody in the organization should be able to track back what they're doing to a customer and how that's making a customer experience better or how that's solving a customer pain. And when employees can do that, they feel very rewarded in their job. And that's what you want out of an organization. You want people to feel rewarded for what they do. You want them to be excited to come in and work on what they're doing. And then ultimately, we're all trying to grow a business together.
Yeah, absolutely. You just seem like a one of a kind CEO. So I love the fact that we're having this conversation. So as we're talking about culture, how does AI play into that? Did your employees ever feel like their jobs were being threatened, or did everyone just have like a lot of fun with everything they can do with AI?
Well, we are an AI company and we force everyone to use AI, right? So AI is another tool in the tool bag. In fact, even outside of business, I tell my family, you better be using AI. AI is like the new internet. So going back to, kind of earlier in our conversation, we were talking about, I remember a time when there was no internet. And yeah, just run around. The phones have cords on them. They were attached to walls, right? Like all that stuff, right? But the reason I bring that up, there was this big transition moment of people who are like, internet's a fad. I don't need to learn about it. And there were people who decided they were going to adopt the internet and they were saying, hey, this thing, even if I don't really understand how it works or why it works, this thing is probably going to be pretty prevalent for the rest of my life. So I better get on board. And I think the same thing applies to AI. So we're going to have people on both sides of the fence. People who are like, I don't want this AI making decisions for me and doing things. And then people on the other side of the fence, AI should be doing everything, right? And then there's a lot of people in the middle. What do I use it for? How do I use it? Why do I use it? The thing is, it's not going away. This is a technology that's too good at what it does, provides too many benefits, too many industries, too many verticals, too many people in the industry that won't be at least baked in to almost every component of what we do in life going forward, in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether it helps make the materials that you use in your job or whether you're interfacing with an AI when you're out in the world. And if you don't understand how AI works, you are going to become a very frustrated person in the future because it's only going to get worse and worse and worse for you. So that's a really long answer to come back to say everyone at Mabel has to use AI. Everyone has to use it every day. We pay for AI tools for them to use. We build AI tools for other people to use. So we are consumers and we are providers of AI in different ways. But I am a firm believer that everybody needs to adopt AI. Not everyone needs to use it at the same level of everybody else, but you have to have a core understanding of how it works for you and just have a core understanding of how it works in general. So when you go out there and you investigate all these different things about AI, you understand what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it is so fascinating to compare it to the internet because the internet's not going away. It hasn't for, quite some time. And AI is the exact same way. So give us like a sneak peek. Like, what is the funnest way that you guys use AI in your business?
The funnest way, that's interesting. We're pretty heads down. We use AI to help us get to the next step faster in a lot of things that we do. So like from a development perspective, we use AI heavily. And I think one of the things that we've realized with AI is the more we write about what we want to do, the more AI helps us get to the next step in what we want to. Like from a coding perspective, AI straight out of the box helps you boilerplate, helps you do some other. But if you put a lot of thought into what you want your program to be, how you want to plan out a sprint, how you want to design a certain deliverable that you have, then using that, which not only helps you document and helps you think through the process yourself, if you can now feed that to AI as you're coding, there's a real big win, right? And so we're working with a lot of these different cool ways to kind of enhance how we think about a problem amongst ourselves and then use that knowledge after thinking about it and how to apply it to the problem and then having that information help us get to the next step in our engineering. I think that's been one of the more fun processes to see happen. I don't know how fun. And it's been very, very fun to see that process mature within the organization over time. And then I use AI to help me iterate through problems. I use AI a lot to take on a different persona that I'm not necessarily familiar with. And then I have it attack my ideas from different personas all the time.
Yeah.
And that gives me a way to see how my words and how my thoughts about where Maybell should go, maybe in the eyes of a different person. But I don't let it die there. And then I can actually take those ideas and go in front of those different personas in the real world and see if things start landing. So it's a really good way to get your brain moving on a lot of different things on a day-to-day perspective. And then, of course, we dog food. So we use Maybell to build Maybell. And that's one of the more fun things that we do. I mean, we do build a runtime platform to build generative AI. So the things that we build in-house, we use our own platform to do it. So that's amazing as well.
Yeah, I love it. I know. And fun is kind of like an interesting word when we're talking about the tech side, but we totally geek out on this stuff. So it's all good. And I'm sure that our listeners do too. Yeah, there's so much that we can do with it. So if you guys are already very heavily in the AI space and you are building amazing things for your clients and for yourself, what is one thing you wish AI could do right now?
One thing I wish AI could do right now. That's a very good question because I think we're heading in a lot of different directions with AI. And I think the future of AI is not trying to make one brain that rules them all, right? So I think we do have these LLM, like these large language models. I think they're very, very good, but to get them to do the things that you want, you have to start narrowing down the scope. And there's different ideas around there about mixture of experts and how you do LLM routing or how you do routing within the model itself to get to the correct answer and things like that. I do think there's a lot of value in kind of building like these big AI brains and then having it route. But I do think the future is having kind of smaller AI modules that do very specific things very, very well. And I think we need to get to a point where AI does things deeply, very, very well, also integrates with other systems. So I think MCP is a start of LLMs kind of integrating with other systems that need more statistical and mathematical and quantitative analysis. How we've done that at Mabel is when we take a look at a customer's data and we ingest it, we actually call it finding structurable data amongst unstructured information. And so our structurable process will actually look at, hey, is there structure? Is there quantitative analysis that needs to happen in this? And we'll bifurcate that in the process. So we don't send everything to the LLM. And then if you want to do quantitative analysis over quantitative analysis, that's something we take very seriously at Mabel and something that our customers put a lot of faith in because math is still not the best thing for an LLM to do. Yet a lot of people try and make that happen. Mm-hmm. You want repeatable statistical analysis over data combined with topic and qualitative analysis. That's something that we put together at Mabel, but it's not just something an LLM does. There's many components that fit into that. And so I think the future of what AI is the LLM's not going to do everything. So what are the components you need to put together around an LLM to get the high fidelity AI outputs that you want? And I think seeing that ecosystem come together and what we're building at Mabel to make that possible for our customers, I think that's where we really want to drive where AI is headed.
Yeah, I love that. So great. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure that people have had a lot of ahas, and just it's interesting to hear your perspective on AI because you're so involved in it. And so I just love what you're doing with Mabel. In fact, you guys go check out Mabel.ai. So we have this part, but also how else can people get a hold of you if they want to know what's going on in your world?
Sure. It's Kevin at Mabel.ai. So if you use the domain down there with my first name, you can get a hold of me. Also, I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn, so you can hit me up there. We'll also be at a set of conferences coming up. We're at a conference almost every month for the rest of the year. AI 4 in Vegas, AI conference in San Francisco, Generative AI Week in Austin, the New York AI Summit coming up at the end of the year in December. And then we're also at GAI World in Boston and Agentic in Arlington, Virginia. So if you're around any of those conferences, we'll be there and we're more than happy to talk face to face as well as virtual.
Awesome. That sounds wonderful. Well, thanks again, Kevin. We just loved having you on the show today. And thanks for tuning in to Mastering AI Momentum, where AI means artificial intelligence, but it also means abundance and impact. Because scaling isn't about doing more, it's about building smarter and staying true to what matters most. And Kevin has been a great example of that here today. So thanks again, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Letting me on.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. We will see you next time on Mastering AI Momentum.
You've been listening to Mastering AI Momentum. If today's episode gave you clarity or sparked a breakthrough, share it, review it, leave us a comment, and show Ali and Elise how you're turning AI into ROI. And make sure you subscribe, because the next episode could be the strategy that unlocks your next level. Until then, build smart, scale fast, and let AI multiply your momentum.